let's jump right into it, Flock, shall we? Because the Ravens, 1 week ahead of the NFL trade deadline, have already made their first move, reportedly acquiring Carolina Panthers wide receiver Deontay Johnson. And with that, welcome inside the channel. I'm Bobby Trosset, and as always, this is where I bring you Baltimore sports and beyond. And today's breaking news live stream is brought to you by my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. More on that in just a second. But I know it's not pass rush. I know it's not a number one wide receiver, so to speak. But this is a move that will help the Ravens. And based on reports, it was one that was a no-brainer and very, very cost-effective. We're going to get into all those details and more. I will open up the guest lines in just a bit as well, so we can all react to this breaking news that just came down about a half an hour ago or so when Adam Schefter and all the NFL insiders made it clear that the Ravens have acquired Carolina Panthers wide receiver and former Pittsburgh Steeler, by the way. He's got some AFC North blood in him, a wide receiver, Deontay Johnson. So with that, let's dive right in. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell. Let's chat about Deontay, shall we? Here you have it. It is a pick flop, by the way, if you will, for the Ravens. Okay. With the Panthers, they'll get a 5th-round pick for Deontay Johnson and a 6th. Okay. What does he mean by that? Jeff has more. It's a 2025 5th-rounder to Carolina and a 2025 6th-round pick. Okay. So Jeff Zarebek and others are on this. The Ravens are sending a 2025 5th to Carolina for Deontay and a 2025 6th. Okay. According to Jeff's sources, the Panthers are also paying down some of his salary. So the Ravens are only going to owe him about $625,000 for the rest of this season. And as Jeff goes on to write, what he's hearing is that, sure, while this improves their wide receiver depth, where they've been thin all year, he also has some return experience, and the Ravens have gotten nothing from their return game all year. Deontay Hardy, not to be confused with Deontay Johnson, Deontay Hardy was their offseason acquisition to fill that spot, and he just went on IR, and it's certainly an area that they can improve in. So again, while there certainly are some questions in terms of how much he actually helps them from a wide receiver standpoint, he could fill a need in a different area, and that certainly is a part of the conversation. So all in all, the Ravens are acquiring a 2025 6th-rounder, Deontay Johnson, the $625,000 right, that it takes to get him done this year, and in 2025, he'll hit unrestricted free agency. And from a Carolina perspective, the Panthers will acquire Baltimore's 5th-round pick. Some news and sort of just the specifics of who Deontay is as a player. He's 28. He'll turn 29 next summer. Another Floridian joins this Ravens roster, originally from Tampa. He's 5'10", so not a big body. I know some of you have been already commenting on that in the live chat. 5'10", a $183. Played his college football at Toledo. He was a 3rd-rounder back in 2019, 66th overall to the Steelers. And that's where he began his career, and he spent the last, really, 8 weeks and the offseason with the Carolina Panthers, who are obviously in disaster mode this year. Having benched Bryce Young, then went off to Andy Dalton, then went back to Bryce Young. It's not exactly been a great situation for him to be in. He's got over 400 career receptions, over 4,700 receiving yards, and 28 receiving touchdowns. Jonas Schaefer dug in some of the numbers here in terms of Deontay's success with Bryce Young under center versus Andy Dalton, and they're pretty significant. Bryce obviously was benched for a reason. 0.64 yards per route run working with Bryce. Negative 0.85 EPA per target. That measures efficiency. a catch rate percentage of 41.7 and 8.5 receiving yards per game. Look at the way it jumped up, even though it was a small sample size. But with Andy Dalton, 2.17 yards per route run, 0.05 EPA per target, 54.3% catch rate, and it skyrocketed to 53.8 receiving yards per game. AKA, you put him with a capable quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you can expect a lot more than the numbers at the top of this tweet suggest. Sarah put his numbers together through 7 games. He's got 30 catches for 357 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. He's been separating among the league's best percentage-wise at 65.31. He does have a drop rate of 6.3%. And when you cross-compare that to what Zay Flowers has given the Ravens thus far, this would be a complimentary piece. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. I think it's an upgrade over Nelson Aguilar and somebody who's going to challenge Rashad Bateman. Zay, of course, leads the way. 41 catches for 527 yards, a touchdown, separation percentage of 68.42, and a drop rate of 4.7%. Before we continue the conversation, this episode is brought to you by my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. And the big news, if you haven't heard already, is that rates are dropping. This could mean big savings for your mortgage. And now is the perfect time to refinance and lock in a lower rate to reduce your monthly payments. The best part is for you as a Bobby Baltimore subscriber, Primary Residential Mortgage is going to cover your closing costs up to $750 for applications that are submitted by February 9th of 2025, okay? You can take advantage of this offer by simply applying through the PRMI Mid-Atlantic website and mention my name as you go throughout the application process. There's a link that's pinned in the comment section below in the live chat, and you can also check the show notes below to get started today, but those closing costs will be covered up to $750 for applications submitted by February 9th of 2025. Here are the numbers for Deontay Johnson over the last 2, 4, 6 seasons that he's been in the NFL. His first 5 were with Pittsburgh. The 2021 campaign certainly sticks out. He played in all 16 games that year with the Steelers. Had 107 receptions, over 1,100 receiving yards, caught 8 touchdowns. Had a lot of success there, certainly. And since then, the numbers have fallen off a little bit. But these are the type of numbers that if you use him properly, he's had some success in the slot. You get him in a new situation. I like the complementary potential that he brings to this Ravens offense, whose wide receiver room needed a shot in the arm when it comes to overall depth. Jonas Schaefer weighing in on some other notes scheme-wise. The Ravens have used 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers on just 28.1% of their plays this season. That's the NFL's lowest rate. And a lot of that has to do with, again, the thin nature of their wide receiver room. And Jonas goes on to write, Deontay gives them more spread them out flexibility, which is where Keaton Mitchell thrived last year in his rookie campaign before he went down with that ACL. And potentially that's where Derrick Henry could live and live well and live good in that formation as well. And of course, the skill set that Deontay Johnson brings to an already jammed group just gives Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson another piece, another chess piece to play around with alongside Derrick Henry. Keaton Mitchell's currently in the middle of his 3-week window to potentially return. Zay Flowers is playing like a number 1. Bateman, of course, had a couple drops, crucial drops on 3rd down last weekend in Cleveland. But prior to that on Tampa Bay, he looked like a bona fide number 2. Which Rashad Bateman shows up down the second half stretch, I don't know. But we've seen flashes, and we know what their tight end group consists of with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. This is your group. And now, right, most importantly, the conversation starts to turn to what next? And before we get to that question, here's how Pat McAfee and his show reacted to this breaking news within the hour.
The NFL has turned the music off. Deontay Johnson has been traded, not to the Texans, no. Not to the Chiefs, no. To the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, wow.
This Baltimore Ravens offense,
Oh, boy.
you start adding pieces to it. Oh, boy is right. This was the oh, boy.
It must have been.
And I think the oh boy was potentially because he knows that Tone Diggs and Pittsburgh Steelers fans who have been in the market for a wide receiver for a long time are not going to be necessarily thrilled by the fact that another weapon who used to be in your team is going to the Baltimore Ravens, who seemingly have a cheat code on their offense, and a running back that is found a fountain of youth and a stamina that has been so dominant he scores every single game. Lamar Jackson is playing better than he's ever played. Couple tight ends. They already have an explosive wide receiver. Bring in another gadget for that offense to cook with.
McAfee and company reacting to the news. Adam Schefter had just been on with them prior, and he was giving an update on a number of things, including the Joe Flacco news, who the Indianapolis Colts are turning back to. They're benching Anthony Richardson. And in the middle of that conversation, Schefter let out a oh boy, as if to say what he was looking at, the notification potentially popping down on his cell phone, maybe, just maybe, was this Deontay Johnson breaking news. And that's what we're here to talk about right now. Over 1,000 of you concurrently watching right now this breaking news. I've just opened up the guest lines if you'd like to join in. But Deontay Johnson is a Raven, and we're still a week out from the deadline. The 2024 NFL trade deadline is set for November 5th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And if the Ravens are done here, that ain't going to be good for anybody. The hope is that now that they've addressed the thin nature that their wide receiver room has been presented with, right, or this reality that their wide receiver room lives with, now it's time to bolster that pass rush department. Because what I watched last night, and going back and looking at the film and watching Kurt Bankert's breakdown and Dan Orlovsky's breakdown, is sure, there are major issues on the back end, but they are being magnified right now and compounded by the fact that opposing quarterbacks have forever and a day in the pocket right now when they face this Ravens pass rush. That's the reality of it. I want to get your thoughts on this move and where the Ravens might head from here right now. Here come the guest lines. Appreciate you guys for being here. Chike and then Judah will get you guys in here. As always, I appreciate you guys for being here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already done so you can be notified of my daily live content. Talk to me, my friend. What's going on? Good to see you,
How
Chike.
you doing? You too. I'm going to be honest. I like the move, but I don't love the move at the same time. It's one of those where I would have much rather preferred a Zadarius Smith or a Max Crosby.
Let's get you some Wi-Fi. Judah, talk to me.
What's going on? Can you hear me, baby?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. So listen, I just came on. I'm at work right now, as you can tell. Man, I just came on real quick to let you know I'm not excited about this this acquisition. For years now, I've been saying that Lamar Jackson doesn't have a tall 50-50 receiver that can go up and get those passes. And last week we saw it again. Save Flowers for everything he brings to the table. His only weakness was his small stature. A couple times, just by Zay being small, he missed a lot of passes. And what we do, we go get a 5'10" receiver. And I don't know if we're trying to set the record for the shortest receiving core in the league, but I don't think this helps us at all, because Lamar didn't have a problem with shifty guys that can create space sometimes. He has a problem with having receivers that he can trust to go up and catch 50-50 passes when he needs it.
Keep in mind of the money. They're getting him for $625,000, and he could potentially fill a void that they've been trying to fill from a return specialist standpoint. Okay, so
Okay.
I hear you on that. This is not the big body wide receiver. This is not the 50-50 ball winning guy that I know so many crave for within this fan base, but it could potentially fill a couple holes. One, from a depth standpoint, the success that he's had in the slot, the complementary type of piece to the puzzle with already having, a star-studded tight end room. And on top of that, maybe he ends up becoming or moves the needle a little bit in an area that you have gotten very little from all year long, and that is in their return game. So I'm with you. I hear you, but I think the Ravens made a very low risk, potentially medium to high reward kind of acquisition, if that makes sense.
Right. I got you. Hopefully, I'm hoping for the Bears, man. But I don't know. I hear you, especially with the kick return aspect. But hopefully, I'm pretty sure they have a tall receiver that's on the market that's affordable. But I'm just hoping for the Bears, man.
You know what's next? Pass rush, baby. Between now and next Tuesday. I appreciate you for calling in, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Guest lines are open. If you'd like to call in and share a thought with me, you can do so by clicking on the link that is included in the live chat. It is a pinned comment right now. Cheek, let's give you another chance, my friend. You got good Wi-Fi now. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Yes. Okay. So it's nice to meet you first, Bobby. I don't love
Likewise.
the move. Thank you. I don't love the move, but I don't hate the move. You kind of hit the nail on the head when you said it's a low risk, high reward. I would have much rather preferred we get an edge rusher first because that's the priority that we need at most. And literally, you just saw the Chiefs get Josh Uche for a 5th-round pick. They essentially got him for nothing. So I just don't understand why we can't go after a guy like a Von Miller. I know he's got a big contract, but who's to say that we won't eat it? Because Von Miller, if you put him with the right team and the right formation, he can still cook. He's still got gas in the tank. But I would have preferred a Von Miller first, but that's just me.
I appreciate the call, brother. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Getting a bunch of different voices in here, in and out, to instantly react to this breaking news today that the Ravens have traded for wide receiver Deontay Johnson, who began his year with the Carolina Panthers. So he's going from a whole lot of nothing to, hopefully, from a Ravens perspective, a whole lot of something, should they be able to figure out this defense, which obviously you hope becomes the next priority for this group ahead of next week's deadline, which is set for almost 1 week from the moment that we're sitting at here right now. It'll be 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, November 5th. I think that's an important day, by the way, in our country for other reasons. C-Max and Justin, let's get you guys in here. What's up, brother? Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you too, Bobby. How you doing?
I'm great, man. What do you think of this?
I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted because when he was a Steeler, I rooted against DJ a lot, and I can call him Butterfingers a lot. He's improved on the drop rate since 2021, so I'll give him some flack. I'll give him some slack for the drops. I would have preferred a big body receiver, but we have three possibly the best separators in the NFL with DJ, Zay, and Bateman. So they're gonna also obviously help each other out. I don't think EDC is done. I mean, I hope he's not done, and we can add ourselves an edge rusher, and then that will complete everything off, I think, for me. So getting a receiver does help because obviously if Bate or Zay go down, having Nelson as your number 2 is a little shaky. So I rather prefer having Deontay just in case. But I don't think we're done. I think EDC makes another move on the defensive side of the ball.
If not, they got major issues because unless something changes right now on the defensive side of the ball, to your point, it puts the offense in a position where you need almost close to perfection week in and week out, and that's just no way of sustainably going about a season. So appreciate the call, brother. Yeah,
no problem.
Finish up.
Okay, I was just gonna say, like, even if we add a defensive stud, is the scheme the problem? Like, even if you put a stud there, can the scheme still hold us back? So, like, I'm not sure.
Appreciate you as always. Talk to you soon.
Brother. Yep.
Justin, talk to me. We're getting a bunch of people in and out of here today. Over 1,100 of you joining me for this breaking news live stream. We're getting as many voices in as we can to react to Deontay Johnson reportedly on his way to becoming a Baltimore Raven. Your instant reaction is what, my friend?
I don't know. Not a needle mover. I mean, I saw my son was texting me, and I'm like, oh, man, we got a pass rusher. We got somebody. And I saw it was Deontay Johnson, and it was like the wah, wah, wah. It's like, oh, come on, man. Like, whatever. I understand it was basically for nothing. And I don't know. His point, the last guy who said, in case something happens to Zay or Bate, I guess it is nice to have somebody that is a veteran. But I've been saying this for a while. Like, we got what, 11? We're on schedule to have 11 draft picks this year. The last couple of years we've had, 9, 10 draft picks, and we're wasting them. We're trading back every year. We're trading backwards to pick up more late round picks while these pass rushers just pass us by. And we're the only team in the AFC North without a premier pass rusher. You got Watt with Pittsburgh, you got Garrett in Cleveland, you got Hendrickson, and who do we got? We got Van Noy, we got Adafe. It's like we got to package up a bunch of those third, fourth round picks, jump up into the second round, and get some help. I mean, I don't know if it's too late this season for something, but I think for the future we gotta work on that. Like our scouting department picking up hurt players all the time and guys that like they blew their ACLs out in college, but they have potential and they never pan out. Like Ojabo and Isaac, both healthy scratches. That makes me sick.
I appreciate the call, Justin. Thanks, dude. As always, a lot of you are joining me here today. Late afternoon news dump, if you will. The Ravens are going after Deontay Johnson. Let's get to a couple super chats before we get back to the guest lines. Robbie says EDC is cooking. This is just the appetizer, and that's what you hope, right? It's a week out from this deadline, and the need is clear, right? This was a need, but not the need. And we all know what the need is in Baltimore. Captain Hard says this kind of screams to me we can't upgrade our defense, so let's just try to win with offense. Hey, there's a lot of time. I know Kansas City struck first with the pass rusher, right, Uche? I know that, but there's still a week, and there's going to be a lot that comes to fruition over the course of the next 7 days. Back to the guest lines we go. Let's go AK, then Mitchell, then Asmodeus, and then D-Rod. You guys are rolling today, and we've got over 1,200 of you concurrently watching. Like the video on your way in if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my daily live content. AK, your instant reaction to this move was what?
Yeah, I liked it. Like you said, it's low cost. It really, we just picked up a guy for nothing almost. And we still have the opportunity to get more. Like you said, I do think EDC is going to probably grab some more people or grab another guy. And our offense really wasn't a problem. So to add something to it, it's just a plus.
And can we please keep in mind that this dude has played with Andy, all due respect to Andy Dalton. I mean, I know he's given this fan base fits back in the day, right, with A.J. Green.
Yeah.
But he's played with an over-the-hill Andy Dalton. He's played with Bryce Young, who unfortunately is flirting with bust territory right now through two short years in this league. And prior to that, it was Kenny Pickett and a number of other quarterbacks in Pittsburgh. So I don't know why people are evaluating him by the numbers over the last several years. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm gonna put actually on my optimistic cap right now and say, hey, look at the numbers between Bryce and Andy, of which Deontay played. It was an uptick in everything. I would expect the exact same from Andy to Lamar. That's putting it very simply, layman's terms. But I'm expecting a rejuvenated Deontay Johnson to show up to Baltimore, going from the pits of you-know-where to an upper echelon team that's been underperforming on one side of the ball this year that's trying to win an AFC title game to compete for a game that Lamar hasn't gotten to yet. That's what I'm thinking.
Definitely, Bob.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for the call. Mitchell, if you turn that camera on, I'll get you in here. And while you do, let's get Asmodeus, then D-Rod, and we'll go back to Mitchell if he can figure out his camera. Oh, he did. I'm just going to go in chronological order of where you guys were dropping in. So back to Mitchell we go. What's up, dude?
I feel like the Colts with Manning in those days where you get a lead and you make the opponent be one-dimensional. We've never been that way. So it's interesting getting this receiver. I like the shiftiness, but man, a lot of trust in Monken to figure it out, which getting cute last weekend cost us.
Tell you what, if you told me that you were a member of the Ravens right now, based on your office, I might have believed you. Based on your gear, where are you right now?
Madison, Wisconsin, at work.
Okay, because having been up in that building a lot of times and seen offices and whatnot, I'm like, is this dude a part of the Ravens personnel staff?
Nah,
and he's just calling in from one winning drive.
Just a slow day.
I love it, man. I love it. Anything else?
No, it's just a lot of trust in this coaching staff, which I don't have. I mean, so many blemishes with Harbaugh over the years. Like, look at the Chiefs. They're playing like shit. I mean, Mahomes leading the league in INTs, but they just win. They just find ways. I want that. I want a coaching staff that just finds ways.
Listen, man, everybody's chasing what they got out there, right?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable the way that they win games with such a pedestrian, not
Yes.
not only with a pedestrian offense, but a very much an imperfect offense. Doesn't Mahomes have an interception in every single
Yep.
game or something along
I
those
mean,
lines?
that's Spags and Andy Reid. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I like Monk, but he needs to not get so cute on these.
Listen, the reality is in Kansas City, they will never be outcoached. They may have inferior talent, right? But they're never going to get outcoached. And that's just the brilliance with which they've built that organization so soundly from a coaching perspective. So appreciate the call, Mitch. Talk to you. Asmodeus, let's get you in here. Your instant reaction to Deontay Johnson becoming a Raven was what?
I think this is a move of striking while the iron's hot. I think there seemed to be a trade war based on what I was seeing from the news cycle, and so Ravens didn't move, and then it turned out to be basically a move for essentially what's nothing. I mean, I'd heard the what is his contract at under $1 million for the rest of the year, if I'm not mistaken, and unless I misheard that from somebody.
$625K for the rest of this year.
Yeah, that's absolutely nothing. And then the trading a 6 for a 5th. I mean, it's basically moving back. Maybe how many compensatory picks are there? Maybe 3 or 4. Maybe moving back from the draft 5 spots. That's essentially what we gave away for this guy, which is absolutely nothing. I think this is a move just to make the team better. I don't think that I think this is a sign that we can't have our players blaming the sun for not catching a pass. I would definitely say that. And then I'm gonna go into my crystal ball and I'm gonna say we're gonna get a pass rusher within next year. The ones I'm thinking going to be most likely is going to be either Aziz Ojulari. I could see Khalil Mack, and I could see Darius Smith. I don't know why we didn't package potentially Clowney in there because you could have added Clowney too. I'm kind of curious about what's your thoughts on that.
Well, I'd be making a call for Jadeveon. I'd be making a call if they haven't already. Obviously, they've already spoken to Carolina.
So maybe we could take most of the best players from there.
Clowney would be a total no-brainer, but if you're really all in, and I'm not taking anything away from Jadeveon's career year that he enjoyed last year in Baltimore, but if you're really all in, and this window comes with a sense of urgency that we all feel like they should have, then you need a premier pass rusher in here. You got to be giving up picks.
I think maybe Ojulari could do that.
You got to be willing to give up what you really haven't in the past, or you don't often give up prime draft capital. And this is one of those situations where you have to bring somebody in that can be a game wrecker.
So I guess this is where we say Max Crosby.
Well, Crosby's probably going to take multiple ones. I think I saw some report out there. So anyway, hey, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the call.
Yep.
Let's keep it going. And if you're just tuning in, the Ravens have traded for Deontay Johnson. He began his career in Pittsburgh as a Steeler. He spent the first quarter plus of this season in Carolina dealing with all the insanity that has become the Panthers organization. And he is now going to try to help the Ravens get where they haven't yet been to in the Lamar Jackson era. D-Rod, talk to me. What are your thoughts?
Hey, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I kind of like the move. One, for it being dirt cheap. Two, what people aren't realizing is that, I mean, I feel like when he was on the Steelers, he was a deep threat. So he can definitely stretch the field vertically, which I think just helps us out. And then the second thing that I just wanted to say, I think, honestly, that if we got a Khalil Mack or a Max Crosby, I don't think scheme has anything to do with it because they're just going to wreak havoc, and it's just going to put pressure on the quarterback to get the ball out. So I think that definitely has to be the move because even if it is a scheme thing, like I said, I feel like if Max Crosby is in the backfield within like a second, so I feel like that would definitely help out our passing situation because we have the players to do it. They just need to rush the quarterback.
They got to do something. It's a group that's been far too inconsistent and allowed Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston to dice up this defense. And that's just the harsh reality of it. D-Rod, appreciate the call, my friend. As always, thanks for the support. We're here breaking this down, this breaking news. By the way, the Deontay Johnson will be eligible to become a compensatory free agent for the 2026 NFL draft. Okay. So, anyway, that means that, basically, let me just read this in real time to make sure that this is Ravens stand to get a comp pick back for him as well. Okay. Yes. So, potentially, the Ravens are in line to receive a 2026 compensatory draft pick, for those of you who are wondering about this move from a draft compensation standpoint. Let's open up the guest lines, or I should say continue to open up these guest lines. We're rolling. We're talking about Deontay Johnson coming to the Baltimore Ravens. RC, talk to me.
What's going on, Bobby?
Great to see you.
Good to see you too, man. So I just have two thoughts. I think the first one is my instant reaction was I think this was a good move. I think, and from a wide receiver standpoint, we are very shallow in depth in terms of experience. Obviously, you have um, a few young receivers, and you have a couple of receivers who have not really been consistent in terms of just their production. And on the second half, on the second point, I also do believe I think that a pass rusher will be great, but also I feel like our issue is more around the scheme and also the secondary. The secondary at safety, I think, is a little bit more of a concern for me. I think there are, if you bring in a pass rusher, I think there are some guys you could grab, but they will be very expensive. I think the Ravens have some really strong young talent, which with an improved scheme and also with help in the secondary, I think that could be maximized.
Yeah, Sarah and I actually spoke at length today. Really, we dedicated like 30 plus minutes of our lunch hour live stream to the schematics, to the scheme shortcomings within Zach Orr's defense, and a couple of different things we looked at, courtesy of Dan Orlovsky's breakdown of the final drive becoming all too predictable defensively wise, sending all out pressure 6 straight times. But on top of that, where Zach has really kind of, I think, tried to adopt and retain a lot of what Mike McDonald did successfully last year, is these heavy disguise packages, right? These simulated pressure packages. You're trying to confuse, you're trying to throw the kitchen sink at Jameis Winston and confuse him pre-snap. And then you're paying the price because of the complexity of some of that and because of all the change in personnel, and you had a couple starters down in the secondary, and then you lost a couple starters up front when Michael Pierce and Brent Urban went down. I know Urban doesn't start he's not an every down guy. But it was chaos out there, and it wasn't organized chaos. And when you go back and look at the tape, there's a lot of guys that look confused pre-snap, right? And then all of a sudden you see a Roquan Smith in recovery mode. You see Roquan in a half step behind the play. You see Adafe Owe confused as hell, and everybody trying to communicate with one another. So I think simplifying the schematics here moving forward before you get fully healthy, right, and until you can kind of get more cohesion there, will help the group collectively moving forward. So those were a few of my thoughts there.
I agree, and I know you gotta go, but I would add on to that by saying, you gotta get people on the back end that can make plays. Just from my limited experience playing at a very low level in football, I mean, I think that it's just either you have it or you don't. And I think if you have a pass rusher, that helps. But if you have guys on the back end or only have one or two guys that can potentially make a play on a ball, as we saw last Sunday, it doesn't matter. So I believe that we should get some secondary help if we're going to get anybody. Thanks, Bobby.
RC, appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Thanks for the call. We'll see if what they choose to do. Clearly not done, you would think. If the first move comes a week out from the beginning of the deadline or the end of the deadline, right, which is 4 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday, November 5th, 1 week from today, you would think that this team is not yet done. We will see. Over 1,300 of you concurrently watching right now. Let me take this as an opportunity to reset things just in case you're just popping on. You see the title. The Ravens have added a wide receiver via trade. That is according to multiple national reports. And let's kind of catch things up to speed here and fully rewind on what just took place over the course of the last half hour or so. So the Ravens have traded for Deontay Johnson. Adam Schefter of ESPN was on top of this right from the jump. And from a compensation update, it's a pick flop with the Panthers receiving a 5th-round pick for Deontay and a 6th. Okay, so Jeff Zrebiec added a few other pieces here as well. The Ravens are sending a 2025 5th, okay, to Carolina for Deontay and a 2025 6th. Okay, so the Panthers are also going to pay some of his salary. The Ravens will owe him about $625,000 for the rest of this year. That is peanuts when you get to the National Football League level. Okay, and as Jeff also notes as well, this does improve their wide receiver depth. They were one injury away, knock on wood, from being thinner than thin, and they've already been thin. Okay, but he also, Deontay does, add some return experience, and the Ravens have got virtually nothing from their return game all of this year, as Jeff notes. Deontay Hardy was just placed on injured reserve, and this could potentially fill a needed void, fill a spot there, and at least give Chris Horton, special teams coordinator, another piece to work with in that ongoing puzzle. So the Ravens will acquire a 2025 6th-rounder, Deontay Johnson. He will hit unrestricted free agency in 2025. This will be eligible. The Ravens will be for a 2026 compensatory pick. And Carolina acquires a 2025 5th-round pick. As for Deontay himself, the player, he's 5'10", $183. He's 28. He'll turn 29 next summer. Played his college football at Toledo. He was drafted by the Steelers in the 3rd round of the 2019 draft, 66th overall. And he spent his first 5 years in Pittsburgh. Went to Carolina this past offseason. That's a nightmare these days for obvious reasons. New coach, new group, new personnel, a rookie quarterback that they just benched, or I should say a second-year quarterback that they benched for Andy Dalton. Then they had to go back to Bryce when Andy went down. Deontay now gets a new change of scenery. He was a second-team All-Pro in 2019, a Pro Bowler in 2021. He's got over 400 career receptions, over 4,700 receiving yards, and 28 touchdowns. As far as the bump or the glow-up that he was able to enjoy from Bryce to Andy, the numbers were pretty significant. 0.64 yards per route run, negative 0.85 EPA per target. This is with Bryce Young. A catch rate of 41.7% and 8.5 receiving yards per game. Then Andy Dalton came in and the numbers skyrocketed. 2.17 yards per route run, 0.05 EPA per target, a catch rate of 54.3%, and 53.8 receiving yards per game. It's a smaller sample size, but the reality is I choose to not evaluate Deontay over the last several years because of the groups that he's been with, because of the quarterbacks that he's had to play with, whether it be Bryce, whether it be Andy, or last year in Pittsburgh. Let's not forget, it was Kenny Pickett. Keep that in mind. It's going to be an immediate upgrade when he joins Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken's system. Deontay threw 7 games as compiled by Sarah on X. 30 catches he's hauled in for 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, a separation percentage of 65.31. That's among the league's best. And a drop rate of 6.3%. As far as Zay Flowers, Baltimore's wide receiver 1 so far through 8 games, 41 catches, 527 receiving yards, a touchdown, a separation percentage of 68.42, and a drop rate of 4.7%. In other words, bring him in. This is a complimentary piece. It's an upgrade over Nelson Aguilar, in my opinion. And now more challenge, more competition, hopefully breeds excellence for Rashad Bateman as this number 2 right now. Here are the numbers for Deontay over his 6-year career. Again, that 2021 season was one for the books. over 1,100 receiving yards, 107 receptions in Pittsburgh, 8 touchdowns. And he's only ever hit over 1,000 yards once throughout his 6 years, but he's steady. And he's a good target and a viable threat in the slot. And somebody that, for the most part, is a reliable pass catcher for you. And now he joins the Ravens, who have used 11 personnel on just 28.1% of their plays this season. That is the NFL's lowest rate. Jonas Schaefer made that observation earlier. 11 personnel is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. What does that mean? They haven't had the horses. They're too thin in the wide receiver room. It's no surprise. It's no secret. But Deontay's going to come in and give them an opportunity to touch every blade of grass, just as they've wanted to throughout this entire 2-year period, 1.5-year period with Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson. So the spread them out flexibility, to use Jonas's words here. That's where Keaton Mitchell in his rookie season last year, before going down with the knee injury, thrived. And Derrick Henry certainly could as well. So there you have it. Add another playmaker to an already stacked offensive group led by your MV3 frontrunner. I would assume that's still the case coming off of Sunday's loss in Cleveland. Maybe not. Maybe Josh Allen is up there. But King Henry, Justice Hill, Deontay Johnson, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and of course Keaton Mitchell is in the middle of his 3-week window as he tries to make it back from last year's ACL. Anyway, we know he returned to practice this past week. Back to the guest lines we go. I appreciate you guys for being here today. Over 1,300 of you joining me on this late afternoon breaking news live stream. If you'd like to call in, hit the link that's included as a pinned comment in the live chat. Manuel, talk to me, brother. Your instant reaction to this is what?
A few things. First, I gotta get the cardio on. So
look at you go.
Of course, 30 minutes on it. Instant reaction. This tells me more about the defense and the offense. Offense, obviously, personnel, but more so defense. It's just saying to me, the scheme is the problem. We have the players because most of them are actually on the team. And then you went from first with those players to dead last this year. So that is, and the rest of the personnel not communicating well towards the players not understanding or not trusting on Zach Orr's plan. That has to change. We have the talent. We just don't have the coaching staff communicating things as they should. Second of all, Deontay Johnson, he was a menace. If you remember when he was in Pittsburgh, it was like they had Juju and then they had Deontay. And it was always, who's going to tear us apart? Is it going to be Juju this game or is it going to be Deontay? So I understand that part, you know? We have another Zay Flowers type receiver. Now you have, well, if Rashad can catch it through the sun, that will be no issue.
And on third down.
Yep. I mean, going a little bit back to that play, if he would have caught it, that would have been a highlight, not only of Lamar, but also about Rashad in his career. Like, oh, if the play breaks down, I can help my QB. Now, it's like, if the play breaks down, I cannot help my QB because I cannot catch it through the sun. Just put it into perspective what other teams see when your contract is about to expire, even though he's assured for the next 4 years. But still, that adds to the resume. And I think and the last one, I think Deontay's from Florida. So this ain't the Baltimore Ravens anymore. This is the Florida Ravens. I think Raven has put it time and time again. More personnel from Florida and the offense, that tells me a lot.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the call, and have a great workout, will you?
All right. Thanks, man.
Get her done. That's great for the stamina right there, by the way. Speaking eloquently while on a bike. Speaking to the scheme, we all know the scheme is going to have to change a little bit. It's going to have to be simplified a little bit should the Ravens continue to want to put themselves in positions to win games defensively. You got too much confusion. There is a very little amount of cohesion right now, and it's magnifying what's been happening on the back end. A couple of super chats. Tank Bromansky says, we have a stacked wide receiver room. Why add to it and not our terrible secondary? So adding a wide receiver is going to help us more than getting a safety or corner. Tank, appreciate the super chat. I would not refer to the Ravens wide receiver room as stacked by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't think that Eric DeCosta in this Ravens front office is done, being that the deadline is not for yet for another week. 8 minutes from now, okay, a week from 8 minutes from now, 4 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday, November 5th, is the deadline. He's got time. And Tank also says, why in the hell would we get another wide receiver? I appreciate the super chats, Tank. Thank you guys for being here. Over 1,200 of you joining me concurrently right now. And we're talking Diontae Johnson. Brian McFarland, Ravens salary cap analyst, had this to say a short while ago. The Ravens are going to be paying 10/18 of the minimum vet salary of $1.125 million, which is $625,000, which is what we've already covered for Diontae Johnson. Okay, Johnson had a base salary of $7 million with $3.889 million still due for the final 10 weeks of the season. So the Panthers are helping the Ravens out here. They're eating $3.264 million in this trade. Okay. So just to be clear, that's how low risk, medium to high level reward this move is for the Ravens front office. This is a guy who has had some success against Baltimore in the past as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a guy who's had some success in the slot this year. It's somebody who has the ability to win his one-on-one battles in man coverage, and understands AFC North football. More from Brian McFarland. The Ravens entered today with $3.8 million in cap space. So that will reduce by $625K, again, which is what they're taking on of Johnson's veteran minimum salary. It may go back up from there depending on what move is made to create a spot on the 53-man roster. Cutting a vet will not create space. Cutting a non-vet will. Putting someone on IR may or may not. Just some important nuggets there as the Ravens hopefully are not done. Keep in mind as well, as I mentioned earlier, the Ravens are expected to be eligible for a compensatory draft selection for the 2026 NFL draft. Okay? There is quite a bit of negativity in here. Bob Dude in the live chat, I see your comment. Why is there so much negativity? I'm not sure. It is so low risk. I'm not sure why there's been this pessimism cast over Eric's move. So many of you have been calling for a wide receiver, and he went out and got you one. I know he's not the big body, consistent contested catch winning guy. I know he's not in the prime of his career, but this is somebody who the Ravens have a tremendous amount of familiarity with. This is somebody who I'm sure was looking for a change of scenery, is getting exactly that, going from the bottom of the league to a potential Super Bowl contender. It's somebody who still has ability, has shown that he still has ability, and has not played with a good quarterback in years. Years. His last three quarterbacks have been Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, and Kenny Pickett. Okay? I don't know if there's one starting caliber quarterback among those three. So, sure, some people have referred to this as non-needle moving. I think that's a fine take. That could very well be what this ends up being. At the same time, if that does end up coming to fruition, the Ravens have very little on the hook investment-wise. Maybe he helps them out from a return specialist standpoint, and he bolsters a room that was thin. They were thin at wide receiver. And so I'm struggling to find something that's worthy of hammering the Ravens front office for here. If they're done, if this is it prior to next week's deadline, then we can have the conversation. Then we can kind of point at the finger at them and divvy up blame in terms of this is it. That's it. But I don't think this is it. I don't think they think this is it. And now over the next 7 days, all focus turns to how can we make this team better defensively? And that starts up front. I appreciate you guys for being here. Over 1,300 of you joining me right now concurrently across all platforms. And those are my instant reaction thoughts. Sarah and I will have more tomorrow in our Wednesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. As always, please like the video if you enjoyed today's show. Would love for you to join the Bobby Baltimore Patreon community. If you aren't already, you can support the channel for as little as $1.99. A lot of you always ask, how can I donate in other ways? Venmo and Cash App are great ways of doing so. The free ways, of course, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my daily live content, and spreading the word on what this channel is, what I'm building, and helping everything out from a discoverability standpoint. So with that, thank you to Primary Residential Mortgage for supporting me. If you guys are interested in getting your home buying process started, your closing costs up to $750 could be covered by PRMI. You can click on the link that's included in the show notes below to begin your application process. Mention my name, and that incentive will be available to you. Thank you guys for dropping by. A great guest call-in line today. And Deontay Johnson is your newest Baltimore Raven entering Week 9, which, of course, is a home game against the Denver Broncos, which is coming up on Sunday at 1 o'clock. I will be outside the stadium at 801 West Austin Street. Be More Around Town's pregame tailgate. That's where I'll be doing my pregame show. I look forward to seeing some of you out there. You can get your tickets today at bemorearoundtown.com. So for everybody, for Primary Residential Mortgage, for all 1,300 plus of you, for all, I think I did have like 10 guest call-ins or something along those lines. Thank you guys for dropping by. I'll catch up with you soon. And as always, thanks for spending some time with me here inside the channel.